Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where you know the deal. People think they're the center of the universe and nobody matters. And in today's episode, OP tells a tale about an entitled idiot who says he owns OP's property and won't stop parking in his driveway, which is super annoying. I hope you enjoy the stories today. Don't shake your heads too hard. And as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Okay, so to start my tale, I need to let you all know that I love to cook. I'm a great cook, and I cook from scratch daily. This is pertinent to the story. Years ago, I worked in an office with about 40 other people. I was asked daily what I'd brought for lunch, and I would bring extras from time to time to share. Regularly, I would get asked if they could have a taste and if I could share. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't, as it depended on how much I'd brought that day and how much I liked the person. One fine day, a certain coworker approached me in the break room and says, "Oh, that smells great. I'll give you my bologna and mayonnaise sandwich if you give me your lunch." I said no thank you, and she just kept standing there glaring at me. I then said something along the lines of, "Are we good?" She then mumbled something and stomped off. Now, this woman was always mad, so I didn't give it another thought. A few hours later, I get a call saying that the district manager needed to talk to me in his office. I go in and we pass some pleasantries, and then he asked, "So what happened in the break room today?" Now, I'd already forgotten about the incident, so I say to him, I don't know, what happened? You tell me." And that's when I found out that this woman had filed a complaint with HR, calling it racial discrimination because I wouldn't give her my lunch. And I'm thinking, what the heck, seriously? So I tell my side and explain that I didn't like her lunch and I didn't want to trade my lunch away for hers. Her race wasn't even on my radar. She was lazy, bitter, and entitled, and I have no problem saying I didn't like her at all. Eventually, she got called in to tell her side of the story. The woman goes into a huge diatribe about how I get home-cooked meals every day and how my food is always delicious, that she didn't know how to cook, and I was clearly discriminating against her when I said no. She then says she deserves my lunch. And I'm thinking, huh? Now the manager and her are both staring at me. I take a moment to gather my thoughts and say, I hate mayonnaise, and I hate bologna even more. And nowhere is there a policy stating that I have to give my lunch to someone who asked for it. We all stared at each other for a few minutes before I was sent back to my desk without a write-up. Good to hear, because if OP was written up for that, guys, it would have been so ridiculous. But like, how entitled do you have to be to complain to HR about someone not willing to trade their lunch with you? Like, it's absolutely absurd how some adults act like elementary school kids during recess. And guys, who thinks that Karen should have been written up for wasting company time and resources? Because I do. That'll teach her. I used to work with a woman who struggled with money. To be fair, she struggled with life in general. The woman had 2 kids, but the courts wouldn't let them live with her as she was too much of a mess to be a suitable caregiver. She saw her kids frequently though. On minimum wage, she would often eat only a chocolate bar for lunch or biscuits, or a piece of fruit that was given to her by other coworkers. She mostly covered her household bills, but sadly, she had a tendency to self-medicate when given the opportunity, and she would often choose this over food. Sometimes, some of your food would go missing from the kitchen at work, and it would be her, saying that she thought it was going to be thrown away, etc. The woman always said how hungry she was. She was almost skeletal, and I felt sorry for her. As a contractor, I earned more money than she did, so I decided to help her out. The soft sap that I am suggested that she help me eat the food that I brought in, to stop it from being wasted, and to ensure that at least once a day, she ate decently. I used to buy extra stuff and let her share it, even to the extent of buying a jar of coffee when I don't even drink the stuff. I began to feel that I was being played when she complained that the coffee I'd purchased, the brand that she requested, was the wrong one. It seems the brand sold 2 jars of coffee, and I had purchased the cheaper of the 2. To put it in perspective, the cheaper jar was still one of the most expensive coffees on the shelf. The woman kindly explained that this time she would drink it anyway, but that next time I need to buy the right coffee. After a couple of months of this, I left for a new job and a bucket of money. The next week, the texts start. She would start off asking for small sums of money for small things, like a few dollars here and there, to a couple of hundred for the electricity bill. And there was strong pressure from her to hand over the money. I apologized and said I couldn't send anything. It was 6 weeks until my first paycheck, so I was coasting until then. At first, she was okay, but then she went a bit aggressive and she began to spam me, begging me with texts day and night. She then got a hold of my WhatsApp and she began begging on there too, using emotional blackmail to try and get me to send her money, asking me if I wanted her to starve and be potentially homeless. I then blocked her everywhere. Through a friend that still worked there, I began to receive text messages saying, "Hey, so Karen told me to ask you if you can give her $10. Thanks." So I had to explain to everyone that I still knew there that I did not wish to hear any messages passed on from her. Later, I heard that she was bad-mouthing me to folks there, saying how mean and spiteful I was and how I didn't have the decency to lend her money because I was too stuck up and I thought I was so much better than she was. Plus, how I gave her cheap coffee that I wouldn't even drink myself, because I thought she was scum. Hearing that, I was furious, but my friends reassured me that everyone knew I gave her stuff for free, and that she was an ungrateful person. It taught me a valuable lesson though, and I'll never put myself in that position again. Like, I'll sympathize with people and suggest organizations that might help, but I will never help someone again by opening my wallet. You know what they say, guys, give an entitled person an inch and they take a mile. Like, it sucks that OP was burned badly to the point where they won't do this again for someone in need. And to be completely honest, I feel like with reading enough of these posts that some people actually prey on kind-hearted people and see what they can leech off of them. This person shares their story and says, "I've told this story before, but this is why I no longer get involved with coworkers. I worked with a woman similar to you, 2 kids, no food, etc. One day, she was in literal tears because she had no laundry detergent and her kids were going to have to go to school in dirty clothes, and all they had to eat was popcorn until payday. I had just bought new laundry stuff at Costco, so I had my husband bring the stuff that was running low, like a quarter of those huge Costco laundry tabs and a box of dryer sheets. She said thank you, and then at her lunch break, she comes back with a Red Bull, a pack of smokes, and a McDonald's meal. I was shocked. She had no concern for her kids at all. Yeah, so reading this person's post makes me really wonder, like, do some people just say what they need to say to get others to feel bad and give them stuff? Like, you have to wonder, are her kids actually starving and only eating popcorn? Or is she just looking for a handout? Or is that just a crappy parent that would much rather have smokes and something to eat while their kids are underfed? This person says, there's a saying that goes something like this: giving once produces gratitude, giving twice produces expectation, and giving 3 times produces entitlement. This story starts 4 years ago. I was living with 2 friends in London within a 2-minute walk from a popular underground station. We all were and still are teachers, but not at the same school. This will all be relevant later. We were renting from a friend of a friend who was abroad for the year. Our house had a driveway with 2 parking spaces, which was convenient as we had 2 cars between the 3 of us, and parking on the road was somewhat restricted. To prevent people from driving to a road near the station, parking, and then taking the train to commute to work, the surrounding area, including our road, had no parking, allowed between 12 and 1, and then 5 to 6. You could park most of the time, but you could never leave the car on the road for more than a few hours, or you would get a ticket. Our problems arose early on, not with our landlord as you might expect, but with the landlord's crappy father. The father lived in the same area, but a 20-minute walk from the station as opposed to our 2 minutes. We quickly found that he was driving to the station and parking on what used to be his son's but was now our driveway, either because he didn't want to walk the 20 minutes or because he wanted to avoid the expensive parking at the official station. So it went something like this. At 7 a.m., we would leave the house to get to school, leaving the double-car driveway empty. 8 a.m., the father would leave for work, find our driveway devoid of cars, and then parks on our driveway. He also wouldn't just park on one side. Most of the time, he would park in the middle, leaving no other car able to park on the driveway. At 5 p.m., we would come home from school, and we would find his car on our driveway. One of us would park in the other space if he parked properly that day, and the other would have to go and try to find another road to park in without restricted parking. Or we would just cross our fingers and risk getting a ticket. None of the options were ideal, and it varied which one we went for. At 7:30, the father would return. He would take his car off the drive, and then we would go fetch our car and put it on the drive. Of course, it was a huge hassle. We went through all the usual channels first, leaving a polite note on the car, and then leaving a less than polite note on the car. Soon, we called our landlord and asked him to speak to his father. While he took our side, the landlord clearly had no spine, and this failed to get Dad off our driveway. Eventually, we lie in wait one evening for him to come and collect his car, so we can speak to him in person ourselves. The conversation goes something like this. So us, we basically say, "Excuse me, sir, but it's very inconvenient for you to keep parking here, and our tenancy clearly includes the use of our double driveway." The father says, "That's too bad. I helped pay for the deposit on this house, so I basically own it, and I'll park here if I bloody well like." We then asked, "So what do you expect us to do then?" The father says, "Not my problem. This is my house too. Find somewhere else. I don't care where." And this is where we decided to get back at him. We knew full well that father lives somewhere in the neighborhood. What if we park on his driveway and we give him a taste of his own medicine? We can imagine it now. The father leaving our driveway, driving home, only to find his own driveway occupied. We think it's a genius plan. The only problem is, we don't know where the bastard lives, but we shrug those concerns off. Nothing a bit of old internet digging won't fix. So we start the research. We search for the guy's last name in conjunction with the local area. And while we find several old newspaper articles with our landlord in it, we find nothing on his father, except dodgy looking websites which want us to pay a fee for his telephone number and address. We're on the verge of giving up when it hits me. If the internet can't help us, we're gonna have to get a bit old school. So I call up my parents, who live a few miles away, and at the back of their dusty cupboard, they find an answer to my hopes and prayers. Obsolete and untouched for decades or more, it's a phone book. And as luck would have it, the father's in it. Telephone number, and most importantly, address. So with that, we put our plan into action the next evening. We come home from work, and as usual, father's car is on our drive. Tonight, we don't circle for an hour trying to find parking. Tonight, we drive to his address, and we park it squarely on his empty driveway. And on his car, we leave a note saying, "As suggested, we parked somewhere else." The guy never parked on our driveway again. We later found out from the landlord that he got a ticket from parking on his road, which had a permit-only parking for the people without driveways. That's karma for you. Edit. For those people suggesting that we should have had him towed, unfortunately, the law is very different in the UK than the US. It's against the law to prevent someone from accessing their driveway, like to park in front of their drive when their car's on it, but not a criminal offense to park on someone else's drive. It's technically trespass, but that's a civil offense and not a criminal one. You can't tow them, and while you can call the police, they have no obligation to get involved. In London, they just laugh at you. The police barely investigate burglaries nowadays, let alone cars on someone else's driveway. Well, doesn't that suck? And I wonder how many people come home to find other people parked on their driveways. Like, that would drive me nuts, guys, especially if you can't do a damn thing about it. And a lot of people are suggesting that since cars can't be towed off personal driveways, that OP should have moved it onto the main road and get it towed that way. This person says car dollies are cheap on Amazon. You just jack up the car a few inches and put one under each wheel, and then you move it wherever you want. So here's a little backstory. I'm the middle of 5 kids, and it's a complicated mess, from my mom being married 3 times. Basically, the order of us is my older sister from her first marriage, then there's me and my younger brother from her second, and then my stepsister and stepbrother from her third and last marriage. The oldest is almost 10 years older than me, and because she had a kid young, I was 8 when my first nephew was born. Thankfully, she didn't live with the rest of us then, but she moved back in with us when I was older, around 16, because she had some fight with her baby daddy and bailed. I somehow became the free babysitter for her kids every weekend, and that pissed me off a lot. Because my mom not only allowed it, she told me I had no choice. Because your sister needed time away from the kids. Never mind the fact that I'm juggling school, a part-time job, and army cadets. And she was a stay-at-home mom, doing absolutely nothing. I had one night to myself each week, to do homework or go out with my friends. The other times, my sister would bugger off and leave me alone with her crotch goblins. It came to a point that I stopped coming home until late on my days off, and just headed to the library or friends instead. This was also in the days before cell phones were a commonplace, so my sister couldn't text to demand where I was. But as soon as I would walk in the door, she practically bolted, and she would get mad if I told her I had to go to work or cadets. On top of that, my mom and stepdad had started making me pay rent when I got a part-time job, about $50 a week, that went into helping the bills. I hated that because I didn't make a lot, and mom started to tell me that the money I would give her for rent was to go to my sister to buy groceries. My sister, on the other hand, used it to go to the casino, and then she would lie to my mom and tell her that I didn't give her money. Terrible! Anyways, this went on for close to 2 years. Sorry for the long backstory, but this woman was the bane of my teen years and a part of my 20s. What finally broke the camel's back was my 18th birthday. My mom and stepdad couldn't be there because of work, which was fine, and I had bought a nice dress to wear with some friends at the bar. Legal drinking age where I live is 18. They also told me that they would be home the morning after, so we could grab lunch together after they had a nap. On my birthday, I got home from school to shower and get dressed to head out. Because of her antics, I had a lock installed on my bedroom door. That, and I didn't want her kids in my room because they would break things. I was in such a hurry that I forgot to relock my door while I was in the shower. And when I got back to my room, my sister was there trying on my dress and she was zipping it up. I scream at her, "Take that off and get the F out of my room." My sister says, "But I need something to wear tonight. I'm going out and you have to watch my kids." I say to her, "The F I am. Did you forget what day it is? It's my 18th birthday and I'm going out." My sister then said, "But I need you to watch them. You haven't been home all day and I have plans and I can't afford a sitter." I then hear a rip as one of the seams bursts open and she destroys the dress. Smugly, my sister takes off the dress and she drops it on the floor saying, "Well, looks like you're not going now, huh?" And then she walked out of my room. I checked the dress, and the stitches on the seam broke, but luckily, knowing how to sew, I fixed it in less than 5 minutes. I then called my boyfriend and tell him what's going on, and he told me that he would handle it and to get ready to go. I get ready, and as soon as I finish my makeup, I hear my sister start screaming in rage. I go outside, and I barely hold back my laughter, as all 4 tires on her car are flat. That's when my boyfriend pulls up, and I say to her, "Well, looks like you won't be going, huh?" My boyfriend had parked his car down the street, and he had snuck over to let the air out but not slash them, as he wasn't that much of an a-hole. That night was a blast, what I remember of it. I didn't get home until the crack of dawn, just as my parents got home. My mom didn't say anything, she just asked if I had fun on my 18th, and she told me to be up by 11 so we could go eat. I then hear my sister start to whine to them in the kitchen, saying that I left to go to a party instead of watching her kids, making her miss a special event. My sister must have thought that she could turn this into me getting in crap, but my mom wasn't having any of it, and she tore into her like I never heard before. Not only was my sister called selfish and childish for trying to pull such a stunt, she was not living there for free any longer. My sister was given 30 days to either get a job or to leave. She moved back in with her baby daddy 2 weeks later. Apparently, she had been seeing him the whole time she was living with us, and she was getting welfare checks without giving my parents a dime to help out, not even buying so much as a box of cereal for her kids. To this day, I hate when any of my siblings ask me to watch their kids. I don't hate my nieces and nephews, far from it. I just don't want to be in the situation of being that run-to free babysitter. I'm also the only one among us 5 who doesn't have kids, and I'm perfectly content to that. Guys, the audacity of OP's sister to make her babysit on her 18th birthday so she could go out. Like the one and only day that you'd think she'd give OP a break to go out and celebrate with friends, right? And then she pulls that stupid stunt. Like, what a horrible woman. Not only with forcing OP to babysit, but basically using her whole family to help raise the kids that she made. But hey, that's entitled people for you guys. So I'm a 45-year-old female, and I've been a stepmother to someone named Lucy, 17 years old, for the past 2 years. I also have a son named Jack, who's 15, from my previous relationship. For the first 18 months that I knew Lucy, she was in love with junk food. She would use the money that she would get from babysitting the neighbors' kids to buy cookies, chips, ice cream all the time. It was very unhealthy how much of that crap she was eating. I tried to politely encourage her to switch to something healthier that still tasted good, like yogurt, and she would always respond with, "You're not my mom, you don't tell me what to do," and "Stop controlling my body." Because of this, she's put on a lot of weight. Anyways, about 6 months ago, she got into an argument with a boy in school. They called each other names, and he ends up calling her a hippo. That made her really self-conscious, and she's been trying to improve her health since then. The day that happened, she came home and she threw out all the junk food we had. And since then, she's been trying to exercise 3 to 4 times a week. She's been making steady progress, and I'm happy she's been taking care of herself. My son, however, loves Dorito chips. He doesn't eat a lot of it, maybe a bag every other week. He mostly eats it in his room, so Lucy hasn't seen him eating them. But a couple of days ago, he was watching a TV show downstairs, and he decides to eat his chips. I was cooking in the kitchen, but then I heard an argument, so I ran out to figure out what's going wrong. Lucy was mad at Jack for eating chips and told him to throw it out because she's trying to lose weight and how dare he tempt her. My son said that he could eat whatever he wants, and I tried to calmly tell Lucy that Jack's allowed to eat in a common place. And if what he's eating is tempting her, she can nicely ask him to put it away, or she can go into another room until he finishes, if he declines her request. That just made her even more angry, and she accused me of playing favorites because Jack is my son, and that I'm sabotaging her progress. This did piss me off because I've done nothing but support her these past few months. I then firmly told her that she's almost 18 years old, and she needs to grow up and accept that not everyone's gonna follow her diet, especially in their own homes. She then cried to her mom, who's now blowing up my phone, calling me a bitch for not supporting her daughter. My husband, her dad, is on my side, but after sleeping on it, he thinks I could have used a gentler tone, so am I the a-hole? So a lot of people voted that OP is not the a-hole at all, as her stepdaughter being on a diet doesn't mean other people diet as well. This person says if she can't eat chips, that's fine. It's not like Jack and OP are eating the chips in front of her and forcing her to eat them. Like if her argument is I'm on a diet so chips and junk food can't be in this house, well I'm sorry, but that's absurd and it only works if it's her house. Like how's she going to deal with going out with friends at restaurants and stuff if she's going to be like, you're not allowed to have a delicious plate of fries while I have to munch on my rabbit food? Guys, let me know what you think. Do you agree or disagree? And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our / entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy, crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's in our / malicious compliance, where OP's landlord messes with him and doesn't know he's a lawyer. Go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.